Why should people care about what happened with the former statesman, a statesman actually still, and the children, the balance of this all?
They should care, Martin.
Martin.
Mark.
So okay, I understand you're in the middle of us.
Double M.
Yes.
Okay. They should care because these are both very important happenings. There's somebody who has ruled a country or presided over the governance of a country for 24 years, even though he has been out of the scene for quite a number of years, 18 to be precise, cannot be wished away. And we also know that he has continued to wield a lot of clout in the background, even in his sunset years.
Okay. To Martin, is the dominance justified in your view?
I see justification in a sense because Moi is no ordinary person in the history of this country. You need to look at Moi as a fellow who bestrode this country as a colossus. This man was 12 years as vice president, 24 years as president, and he has other years in the Legislative Council, member of parliament, and as a minister. This is a man who has defined life of so many people in this country. And so I really would understand when people make noise, because many of the people around may not know that history. But people also need to understand issues of news values, understanding how media works, setting the agenda. I know that there are concerns about the death of 14 children. Is a tragedy that has happened. And I think, as I went through the newspapers, I may have seen acres of pages with so much copy about Moi.
Yes.
And maybe
an update here and there.
Yeah, about the children. There could be concerns, but I think Kenyans ought to understand that I think Moi will never die again. And really, this is a man who cannot just be wished away.
Washira, I'm sure you saw this. People, the layman, sees this as one elderly, 95-year-old. In fact, he lived to his full life, and 14 children. Untimely death. Where is your priority as newsmen? Please explain it.
Personally, as a person who deals with images, the moment that former president died, I immediately conceptualized his life that he led while ruling this country, and even before as a vice president. So I had him working as a leader of this country. And on the other hand, as an image person, I started looking at the 14 children trampled in that incident.
Kakamega, yes.
Kakamega. And I felt instantly when, after the 14 were announced to have gone through that, I looked at Moi and his history of maziwa ya Nyayo for the children, and then the number of schools that he raised money to put up schools from primary level to university level. And wherever Moi went for a state function, a political function, the child was always dominating the terrain. Either he would stop to greet them, or they will come in front of him to sing as choir and so forth.
In essence, you're saying he loved the children.
He loved the children.
Many people knew
and
him for that.
And therefore, to me, I felt, and I still feel, that we should balance. We should present.
Was it balanced as is? That's what I want to get out from you.
No. It's not.
Where was the tilt?
It's tilted on His Excellency.
All right. Would you make the same call, Bonakale Atemi, as our boss, if you were still the boss here at NTV or at NMG?
our Nigerian relatives say that a great Iroko tree has fallen. Such trees, they don't fall every day. Mugumo trees don't fall every day. It falls once in a long time. Moi has been with us in politics, total probably 36 years. 12 as a VP, 24 as a president. And there's no politician who can show me among the prominent ones, from Raila Odinga to Kalonzo to Ruto, who was not touched by Daniel Arap Moi. Kibaki, all of them, name them, they all went through his hands. So it's unfortunate that, as a news editor, for instance, when you have a big story of the kids perishing, and Moi dies, the pages just change. It's not your wish. It's news value. And when you talk about balance,
yes,
there's only so much you can say about the death of the children, because it's still a matter under investigation. What more can you say, apart from the 14 have died, they're trampled upon, police are going to investigate? The other acres still have to go to Moi, because you can't give those children 20 pages. Right. So the issue of balance really doesn't arise. I think it just happened that they died. It happened at the time when the Iroko tree has fallen.
All right.
And the shadow fell on the children's story.
Warungu, we agonized about this when we were trying to plan the rundown for the bulletins. Would you make a different call now, after seeing the complaints from many people, that you buried the children of Kakamega under the news of the late Moi?
It's unfortunate, the tragedy in Kakamega, and I was torn as a journalist because it's a very unusual death with these kids in Kakamega. But on the other hand, President Moi, this is a man who's synonymous with the history of, contemporary history of Kenya.
Yes.
A lot of us who grew up in the Moi era did not imagine that this man could actually die. The way he was positioned, in fact, we had a law that it was almost an offense to imagine and encompass the death of the president. So for that to happen, it was like, okay, really? So it's a humongous event. This man, literally what, half the years that this country has been in existence since independence, Moi was a feature of that.
Right.
So I think I would balance. I think I would still lean on giving prominence to the death of a head of state, because we've only lost 2 in 56 years, and then we would still have time. The story of the children is still going to stay with us, because we now have to dig into what happens, how to prevent future tragedies like this. So Moi is still prominent, but I think we ought to have balanced it and made them share a little bit of the space. And don't forget that at the same time in Kakamega, we've had this tragedy. And
don't forget coronavirus facing the country and even the globe, and many asking questions about where are we in terms of our security. But this was a comment by someone who you have worked with, I'm sure, a peer, Macharia Gaido. He said, watching TV talking heads, such as us, united in positive reminiscences of Moi era. That's fine. The man had his good sides. But what about Umar Ulenin and Mwandawiro, Paddy Onyango, Mtumishi, Kathangu, and many others who endured torture, jail, and exile? Let's tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll start with, and anyone can jump in here. Atemi, do you agree with this statement?
I think Moi has been hit so many times. If anybody were to be angry in this panel, I'll be very angry with Moi, because I suffered incarceration. I spent days and months, whatever, in various police stations, and his regime was a terror. Literally, was a terrorist to his own people. But I think we've told so many stories about Moi's bad side, and there's barely anybody telling us about the little good side of him. Because no human being is 100% evil or bad. So I think Moi's bad story has been told and retold for decades. That when we come up with a little bit of his better side, I think we give people a different
and anyone can